He is a man of many titles and the recipient of countless awards already, but now Israeli President Shimon Peres has been awarded the Congressional Gold Medal at the U.S. Capitol. In his acceptance, Peres called peace between Israel and the Palestinians, quote, the most possible impossibility. He also said Israelis and Palestinians share a common enemy, terrorists. He said are the enemies of both. Peres said the region must come together to stop terrorism. Here now with me to discuss peace in the Middle East is Phyllis Bennis. She's the directs, I should say, the new Internationalism Project at the Institute for Policy Studies. She's also a fellow of the Transnational Institute in Amsterdam, and I want to welcome you to the broadcast. He says the most possible impossibility, and then you would, if you were to go and ask Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, George Bush, Barack Obama now trying to do something in his second term, all of these presidents, late in their presidency, say, we can do this, and it actually ends up being an impossible impossibility. Is he right? What's the problem?
The problem is what they're trying to do doesn't work. You might call this last round the Einstein round. You remember Einstein once said that the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. That's what the problem is. They're trying to do the same thing, which is never going to work because it's based on maintaining Israeli military, strategic, economic, and every other kind of domination over the Palestinians and in the region, keeping their nuclear weapons that are not acknowledged but are widely known to exist, maintaining complete control, maintaining their control of the land of the West Bank, where they now control somewhere about 65% of the land if you include the settlements. There's now 650,000 illegal settlers living in the West Bank. You know, when the Oslo process started, there was less than 200,000. So if you look at those 20 years of failed US diplomacy, 20 years of Oslo, really more, but at least that, what do you have? For the Israelis, they've done fine. Their economy is booming. People are traveling all around the world. They are in control. What have the Palestinians seen? Their land has been stripped. They have more settlers than ever before. Their lives have been constrained with checkpoints, and it's a horrific scene. And the problem is that people make this claim that the situation is not tenable, it's not sustainable, and therefore it will have to change. The problem is, for Israelis, it's very sustainable.
But when you describe this, I think to myself, maybe the problem isn't in the Middle East, the problem's here in Washington, D.C., because of all the lobbyists who have the influence. How do you change that? Because you say it's the definition of insanity, it's the same thing over and over again, but how do you change that dynamic?
Well, first of all, I think it's not only the lobbies. There's many lobbies. There's the pro-Israel lobbies, and there's the nuclear lobby, but also the weapons lobbies. They are making a killing on this, selling massive amounts of arms to Israel and to all the other countries surrounding it. You know, the Middle East is a suck place for arms, and they're making a fortune off of it, most of it with our tax money. But if you take that away and you look at the discourse in this country, don't look at the policy, which has not changed. The discourse has changed massively. The diplomacy isn't working. So what happens when diplomats fail? Civil society takes over. In this case, the Palestinian civil society is leading a global civil society movement known as boycott, divestment, and sanctions that's looking to bring nonviolent economic pressure to bear on Israel. At the same time, you look at how the discourse in the US has changed in the Jewish community. AIPAC, the biggest and strongest of the lobby groups, no longer speaks for the majority of Jews, if they ever did. And you have groups like Jewish Voice for Peace that have 150,000 members and chapters in 40 countries and a youth wing that's more popular on college campuses than anything else. You have extraordinary shifts in the media. It's not all great, but it's different than it was. You have books being published that never would have been considered by a US publisher. You have television shows, popular culture, movies, education. In all of these ways, you can look at the polls and see how opinion has changed. The problem is our democracy isn't good enough to keep up with that. So public opinion hasn't had enough impact yet.
Well, Phyllis, you're helping to keep the dialogue going. Thanks so much for coming in. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.